um, through 22, COVID kind of took us all a little by surprise, so we get a bonus year there. But the projects that we're going to outline really, I think, finish up a lot of the work that we started, 6.5 years ago when Brian and I came on board with the campaign for Roger Williams Park with the Rhode Island Foundation, but also introduce some really new and exciting elements that really honor the park's heritage and our efforts toward conservation and preservation and recreation. And one of the first things that we're going to introduce, we're going to spend a little more time on this project, is a boardwalk fishing pier, which we're incredibly excited for. And we're applying for additional funding through the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management Outdoor Recreation Opportunity Grants. And one of the requirements of that is also to host a public meeting. We do that also when we bring these things to the Board of Park Commissioners. That meeting will be on the 30th, but we wanted to make sure that the community really got a chance to weigh in on this really exciting piece. And then we have a number of other projects to show you, and other updates about the park. This is not a park that's going to be dedicated to issues in the park itself, such as ATVs or what have you, but if we have time at the end and we're able to cover that, that's great. But this one is really dedicated to showcasing some of the work that's coming up and getting some feedback on that. Does that sound agreeable to everyone? Okay, all right, good. Okay. So I'm going to start with just a narrative of what we're doing over by the Temple to Music on Cunliffe Pond to really make fishing and boating accessible here in the park. So as you know, that of the park's 435 acres, ponds make up approximately 100 acres. It's and there's a pretty sizable community that enjoys boating and fishing in the ponds, including veterans with disabilities and other groups that have similar ADA needs. But the facilities for these activities are underdeveloped, and they're implemented in a way that adversely affects other amenities and visitor safety. In the area that we're describing, which is just south of the Temple to Music, there is a stormwater feature that has been mistaken as a running path. And so it's no longer functioning as a stormwater feature. It's been trampled on, and the soil is so compacted it doesn't work that way. But the alternative of running in the greenway in this section of the park is also a little more daunting. So given folks druthers to run on the street or run on a pretty path with some plants, the path always wins. So we don't want to fight this. We want to go with this and take that as our lead. So this proposed design actually takes the walkway out onto the lake itself, and then it culminates in also a dock to tie up boats, light boats, kayaks, electric boats, and things like that, and invites people to stay and linger and enjoy the area. It also resolves the issues of parking in the area, or at least to some degree, and reduces the pinch points in this particular area where things really merge. So I think this is the SketchUp that we have that we've been working with wood and ironwood and our own designers on. And you can see there's a preliminary entree to this boardwalk that then goes, oh, Megan, you're doing such a great job of showing us these features here with your that goes out over the water, that has a viewing point, places to sit, places to fish from, places to gather, places to bring your stroller. And then what it does is it takes this path out over the water. And you can see here this beautiful boardwalk that has this really, really nice guardrail that is done with horizontal lines that make it just really disappear against the horizon. There are places to sit. These are lampposts, but we're not going with lampposts. We think those are too intrusive in this area. There'll be lower mounted ones that will be integrated into the guardrail. And it carries through. You can see here an area to stop, think, fish, meet with friends, do all those kinds of lovely things. Oh, look at these happy people enjoying themselves there. And then it takes you through, again, completely ADA accessible, to where the current dock is now. What we have is not really a dock. It is just, it is a boat launch, and it's rudimentary. It's hard to get in and out of. Folks who do need ADA access are unable to use that dock. They have to find other places in the park, for instance, behind the boathouse, or some of the privately managed docks. So we really want to open up fishing and boating in this park for everybody, but also to make this area that is south of the temple much safer and used. And this is going to make, also, as we highlight some of the other projects, this is about, you know, creating the story of Roger Williams Park far beyond some of these well-known public amenities like the Temple of Music. It's about inviting people to go deeper into the park, to experience it on the water, to experience different trails, to see different things along the way, much the way that Cleveland had intended when he designed this park over 150 years ago. And so some of the things that you're going to hear about tonight are going to continue that motif throughout. And let's see what else we have here. Is that the last slide that we had, Megan? Yeah. So Megan and Brian, is there anything that you want to add to this?
I think the Boardwalk project is going to be a game changer for the park in an area that we'd like to activate a little more. And we have heard from fishermen in the park that that's the place to fish. So we'd like to enhance their fishing experience in that area. I think it's a great project. I think it's a game changer here in the park.
Yeah, and one of the big things it'll do is it'll preserve the stormwater as well as the wildlife habitat in that area that is now intruded upon by runners using and walkers using that space. Will include lighting. You know, it's really going to create this urban naturescape and interpretive signage about the animals that you may see. There's lots of space to do community events and things like that in this area. And, you know, there really isn't a boat dock in South Providence. We have a few launches here and there, but ironically, we had a meeting for India Point Park last night where somebody said, why don't we have more boating in the city? And this is certainly an effort to include Roger Williams Park in that network of active boating. One of the other things that I don't think we had in our slides is that the parking area over by the current boat launch is a nightmare to navigate with a trailer. So we're going to be expanding that a little and clearly marking those spaces and providing some amenities there. The issues with traffic, what we're going to be doing is where people, as much as we have tried to convince people that parking in illegal spaces in Roger Williams Park is not a good idea and you will get ticketed, people still persist. And that area in particular, it causes cars to go into, to swerve into sometimes the bike lane because people are illegally parked on the western side of the street. So what we're proposing here is that where it's currently grass before the hill goes up to the Veterans Memorial, doing something called reinforced turf there, where we leave the turf, but we also mark it as parking so that people can actually pull over and park in that area, which will leave a little more room on the road for the other activities and make it safer for biking and pedestrians in that area. So we're really hitting a lot of keynotes here with this project. Did I miss anything, Megan or Brian? Kevin? Any comments, questions?
Yes,
Go ahead, Robert.
thanks. Did you say that there was going to be a boat launch?
There is currently a boat launch, but it's very well hidden over there, that you wouldn't know it. And
Oh, I
there's no
missed-
other amenities there. So what we're doing is we're actually leaving, I think we might be making some adjustments to the boat launch, but there's going to be a boat dock there so that you can easily access your vessel from the dock. You can tie up your dock and stay and have a picnic, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here before I get blocked in. You know, so it really says, come, enjoy, stay a while, make a day of it.
And is that how you started to explain the need for additional parking for boat trailers?
Yes,
Okay, I see.
there's two additional needs. There's one for boat trailers, you know, and trucks, or however they carried, some on rooftops and what have you. And then there's additional parking for regular cars on the street. That, you know, people right now, particularly when they're coming to softball games and things like that, will park all over the place, and it causes problems. But if we are able to take a little bit of that curb without losing the greenery, we don't ever want to take out anything in this park and replace it with asphalt. So we would do this reinforced turf, so that the turf will still remain, but it's also can manage the parking.
Mhm. And the meeting last night concerning India Point Park, was that under the Providence Parks umbrella, or was that Friends of India Point Park?
That was under the parks, and
Oh, okay.
Friends of India Point Park are a partner in that project.
Okay, thank you.
Wendy, there's a question from Audrey Clifton about the time frame for completion.
Kevin, it's hard to hear you.
Audrey has a question. Audrey Clifton has a question about what the time frame for completion is.
So we are looking, this funding application will go in for December 17th. And we should hear about it in the spring. Once we are awarded the funding on this, we you know, hope to go out to bid and you know, hopefully have this project completed this year. If perchance we don't get the funding, we can do a modified version of this, that we have dedicated funding from the capital improvement bond that you know, we earmarked a few years ago, because this, I think, you know, again, this project hits a lot of boxes in breathing new life into the park, but also resolving some of the issues that are in that area in particular. So either way, we hope to have this done either you know, this summer, early fall.
Thanks. Doug has his hand raised in front of the camera. Hey, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. Wendy, this is wonderful. And it has been such an inspiration since you've come on board, and your team and the Rhode Island Foundation money, that this park is just really majorly turning around a significant corner. You know, as we know, it has had many needs for many years, and the capital infusion from the Rhode Island Foundation, in my estimation, has really allowed this park to blossom into something that it can potentially be. And I think you're very beautifully orchestrating this piece. And so I'm celebrating the fact that, you know, we have a wonderful Michael Van Leesten pedestrian bridge over the Providence River. And now we have in the south side this wonderful walkway over the water in the south side of Providence. So thank you so much for this. And if there's any way that that I can support your efforts, please include me in on that. Thank you.
Well, Doug, you can, first of all, you get a frequent flyer card for coming to all our community meetings. We appreciate that. You can redeem it for a cup of coffee, or no, maybe not. We're grateful for your continued input on that. I think just send me a note, a quick email with that would be fabulous to include in our application. I think that would be fabulous. And I do want to note that under Mayor Jorge Alorz's administration, that the city of Providence has also contributed over $12 million to this effort here in the park. So it's been a real partnership between the Rhode Island Foundation, the Conservancy, and the city of Providence, not just in managing these projects, but also providing a significant amount of funding too.
Great. I don't see any other. Oh, Robert, do you have another question?
Thanks. Yes, I do. You may have mentioned this already, but did you mention that DEM was going to stock the ponds with fish?
No, I didn't mention that, but that is one of the things that we're looking at. We did a preliminary walkthrough with Christine at DEM. You all may know her last name may be coming to you more easily than me, particularly to talk about Mashpog Pond. I know that the bass fishermen stock the pond. That's correct, right, Brian? No,
Not recently, no.
not recently, but that has been historically. But once that we do that, we can take a look at doing that with DEM. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy, I don't see any other hands or comments in the chat about this project. Oh, I see a hand now. Is that?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's Mike Lucy, and that's Eric Pullen right there. Hi, guys. Wendy, Brian, everybody. I just want to say the design and the renderings of it, that all looks really beautiful. It looks like a really nice lake that I'm really impressed with. And it does, I understand the problem that you're trying to solve, and looks like a really nice design of a public amenity. What would be a public amenity? I just wanted to say that because it's always nice to be pleasantly surprised by like a design proposal, So thank you guys. And I actually want to echo what Doug said about just how the general improvements in the park over the last 10 years, since you've been around, Wendy and Brian and the foundation getting involved. It's a noticeable difference, and I appreciate it. I still go and spend time there, and means a lot to a lot of people that don't even live right nearby. So thank you guys for that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's the power of partnership, right? You can always do more when you partner, right? And the best parks have the best friends, and certainly we have fantastic friends in the Conservancy here. So as you know, our friends Mike and Eric are also from Newtoconkinut Hill Conservancy and have done a great job working over there. And Mike and Eric also worked on the trails here in Roger Williams Park on the new trail system, which got a great write-up in the paper over the weekend. So it's nice to see.
All that. Yes.
So, all right, so we have a lot more projects. That was just the start, I guess the appetizer. Would it be safe to say then that this gathering that we have unanimous excitement about this project? Okay. If you dissent, just send me an email. Right,
Hit those reaction buttons, people.
great. So Megan, do you want to talk about the Bear Ground?
Yes. So hi, everybody. It's Megan Gardner here, landscape architect, and I'm proud to represent the design division here at Parks. And I'm thrilled to talk about a couple projects that are in design development here in Roger Williams Park. And I've got my kind of locus map graphic up here. We're recording live from Boathouse. And then Wendy was referring to the project here at the Boardwalk south of the Boathouse, and kind of right in between is the next project that's on the boards. And it's going to be, in our vision, kind of a regional destination, and it's going to be named the Bear Ground. And first off, part of the reason for this project is to kind of pay homage to a former use of this site whereby there was zoo animals that were kind of housed, or I should say chained in this area on concrete pads in this hollow. And so really before a time when there was, real consciousness about how we should treat animals that are in captivity. So we really want to change that up and make this a beautiful, artful, and iconic space where people can come and gather and play here at Roger Williams Park. So I'm going to go through my next slide. And here again, this is the inspiration. This is a beautiful brown bear. We don't have brown bears native to New England, but I just love the way he's sitting, looking very elegant. And so a big design inspiration that we've actually shared with several playground designers. So we're working with playground equipment designers who custom design features. We're in concept, or I should say conversations with several of them, but we kind of gave them our ideas. They're kind of in sketch phase, and so nothing is really forthcoming, but what I'm going to show you is kind of the space and some of the opportunities and constraints of the space, and then kind of what we have proposed so far. So here we are. My cursor is up at Maple Avenue, as you can see. So it's about a little over acre site, and there is the Roosevelt path where this other car is just heading along. So the current access is not super user friendly. You could certainly access the site. We're about 8 feet above the grade of Maple Avenue, but given that, we've got about a 25% slope. So this is definitely not ADA accessible. So part of what we'll need to do is create a path that's accessible for all users. Another constraint is that there's a pipe that outlets and is causing some pretty severe erosion that's kind of washing out the area kind of really right at the base of these existing stairs. And in a superstorm, which you seem to get more and more of, the water goes down this existing concrete path and it kind of spills into the area just above the Hasbro playground. So we're going to fix that through our design. There's a really nice remnant of a stone wall here that we're going to take advantage of on the site, and also some absolutely beautiful hardwood, deciduous and evergreen trees. So as I said, the site, we're going to propose access from Roosevelt Path, which is already paved, and you can kind of also see where my cursor is, a little bit of outcropping of ledge, and kind of hard to see, but right where I'm circling are remnants of the former pads where the bears had been chained to. So anyhow, the existing site, like I said, about a little over an acre. And here's just a fun image of a company that designs really cool and iconic play features. We're not necessarily going with this exactly, but what we're hoping to work with them is coming up with a bear. We think maybe the bear will be sitting, but the bear will be climbable, slidable. There'll be other natural features on the site as a bear would want to have on a site, such as boulders and native logs and stumps and all that. So just kind of a little fun image of something else that's been designed in another part of the world. And here is showing the graphic that we have created through our design team. So as I said, here's Maple Avenue, and we would propose a path that kind of meanders down, winding down in less than 5% grade so that it's ADA accessible and kind of encircles the whole site. And then in the center area would be our cool play feature that you could climb and slide down, surrounded by stumps, boulders, some logs for stepping, climbing, hopping around, free and open play. And then there would be a gathering place for picnicking and sitting. The stairs, we're not proposing to move them, but we are proposing building a bridge that kind of comes from the base of stairs over to the proposed path. And below that would be a stormwater feature. It'd be a bioswale, and it would infiltrate the stormwater, planted up with native plantings. We try and buffer a little bit more the edge above the Hasbro playground. And I do want to say what's really cool about this is that not only the design division is involved in the design and the documents and working with, you know, the playground company that we hire, but both the forestry division and the maintenance division are going to be involved in building out some of the features. You know, we hope to use Robinia wood in the logs and the log steps and the planks and some of the earthwork and other kind of demolition and site prep work would be completed by our own in-house maintenance crew. So it's really exciting. And I can go through the next project unless we want to talk about this or any questions about this project before I move on to the next one.
Megan, can I just add a couple of things?
Yeah.
One, it also addresses some of the issues that right now, a lot of cars park along that area doing things that aren't really benefiting the park or the people in the cars very much. And what this does is it brings a lot of attention to this area, a lot of really positive activity. And it's also kind of an antidote to the Hasbro playground, which is lovely in and of itself, but it's bright, it's got bells and whistles, and this is a natural playscape that really addresses kids' needs for imaginative play and exploration. And is really, really important to have these kinds of playgrounds that enable children to develop their own sense of risk and their own sense of self. It's a different feel than the Hasbro playground. And it's also much more accessible, that it's open, it's not, it's readily there. So I think that's important to note. And a lot of the materials that we're using are going to be naturally sourced from our own forests here in Roger Williams Park, particularly the Robinia wood, the black locust, which is an invasive species that we have been using a lot, one of the most durable hardwoods that you can use. So that's also exciting.
Megan, there's a couple questions. Maybe you saw them in the chat.
I didn't, but I will look.
I can tell you what they are. First, a quick orientation question about where it's located in relation to the Hasbro playground.
Right. So I'm going to go to the next slide because it shows you the map again. Let's see. Oh, it's funny. You can see the north arrow, and then to the east, so kind of where my cursor is circling is the edge above which or below which the Hasbro playground is located. So there's Maple Avenue. If you were to continue on Maple Ave, you'd be going towards Temple of Music. If you go up over the slope where I'm circling with my cursor, you're kind of on a top of slope, and then down below is Roosevelt Lake. So this is where the site is located.
So uphill, if you've been to Hasbro playground and you kind of look across the playground towards the back, there's trees in a hill, and it's up on top of that hill.
Right.
Thanks,
So,
thanks, Megan.
Can I ask more about that?
yes, certainly.
Is there I don't know what you call it, an overall scheme to have the playgrounds central, or is there any looking to the future of spreading out the playgrounds in different areas of the parks? And I do understand what I forget her name, I guess it's Wendy, was talking about, that a lot of the cars parked in that area aren't there to enjoy the park. I get that, but I'm just wondering why the playgrounds are right next to each other.
I can probably take a stab at that and Megan fill in. Again, they're almost very different users. One is a very fast playground and one is very slow. The kind of playgrounds the Parks Department designs are generally nature-based. This space is particularly important because it, again, pays homage to the bears, and using that space and turning it into some really good karma was really important. One of the things that we do want to do in the park is preserve the natural areas. And this is one of those areas that is natural, but is not very well used. People don't have picnics there. There aren't very clear sight lines. And by bringing the equipment up and higher so that you can see it from the street, it really integrates it more into the park. But there aren't a lot of areas in the park that we want to develop at all. So this is one of those spaces that's really tucked away, and there's parking there at the carousel. There's parking close to Park Avenue and Maple Avenue. So we don't see a flurry of playgrounds going, but this is more integrated into the woods in that experience. It's not, you're not going to see bright shiny things or things like that. It's like a woodland experience that really does fit really nicely right there. And I will note that we did just also complete Joe Williams Park across the street, which is a very busy playground with the highest slide in the city. We also completed Arduin Park. All these are within a half mile of the park. Arduin Park playground, as well as Amos Early Playground. And 2 of those playgrounds have adult fitness centers associated with them, and also 2 have ball fields, and 1 has basketball courts. So in the immediate surrounding area, there is a number of playgrounds already.
Thank you, Wendy. Megan's question from Doug about the bioswales and whether they can be designed for amphibian habitat.
I don't think that's so. I think it's more of a detention versus a retention area. That hasn't not been brought up as a possibility. We could talk about it. That would assume that there would be constant water. We would hold that water, and then that would also assume we need to kind of have that water filtrated and cleaned in some way. So I think that's a really interesting idea, but we have not explored that up until this point.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Doug. Anybody else have any other questions about the Fairground project? Feel free to drop it in the chat, raise your hand, or wave in front of the camera. All right, I don't see any other comments, Megan.
Well, thank you for those. So the next project I will talk about is something cool that is proposed, and actually a little bit further along as far as design, at the Botanical Center, which is located here where I'm scrolling. And so what is going to be installed in the spring of next year is the Rose Meadow Path at the Botanical Center. And I do want to point out that it's being funded by the Vivian Palmieri Trust. And so what's happened is, you know, there's a lot of weddings that occur up at the BC, and you know, there's a whole experience to getting married, and kind of the entry and you know, the opportunities to stop and pause and photograph and so forth, and kind of the whole like walkway experience. So currently coming down from the BC Center itself, there's this long path that is on the outskirt of a sloped area that is turf. And you know, right on axis, pretty much from the BC is the beautiful rose maze with the new pergola and those improvements. And so there's a call for a path that would really be able to provide more of an experience for, you know, all users, but in particular for, you know, ceremonial users. So so we have graded out a path that again is accessible, less than 5%, and with an overlook. And you can kind of see this image of a pergola overlook. It would be the same style as the pergola features out in the maze area. And we pulled up the slope of some boulders. There'd be some native plantings. But what's really cool about this whole path, there'd be another bench that would be right on axis with the labyrinth, is that all the planting is proposed to be meadow. In fact, the director of the Botanical Center now is kind of looking at this area where I'm circling that's outside the limit of disturbance, to start putting in some plugs that she has cultivated of native wildflowers, so she can kind of start this whole process of really creating this entirely sustainable slope filled with pollinators, pollinator plantings, and so for this whole incredible experience. So the project is again under the design development and construction document phase, which would include a 5-foot wide path that meanders down, some native woody plantings kind of at these like focal points along the path. And then what's kind of cool as well is that I don't know if anyone's been out there recently, but there's an old beech tree that came down maybe about a year ago, and we left some big chunks of the trunk, and we're working as a design team to create a whole dialogue area whereby you can sit and have conversation and sit on these big, beautiful, like chunky pieces of wood within the space, kind of right off the existing path, not off the proposed path. So that's kind of cool. And then secondly, it's not really much on the plan, but there's an area that we're going to enhance for the goats, because we all love the goats at the BC. And so they will have their own pen that will be more circular. We're reusing some existing stockpiled fencing and adding some stumps and taking advantage of an old a beech tree that we believe will need to be felled. I don't want to speak for the city forester, but we've had some preliminary talks about kind of having the goat pen down in part of the tree, and have even the goats climb the tree in such a way, because I guess I'd like to do that. So I think I have a couple more slides showing those things. Yeah, so here's a view of what you see, and so the path will terminate right here. The proposed path will terminate right on axis with the entry to the Rose Maze. Again, a highlight of the pergola feature, which would overlook the lake. I think it's Wentworth Lake, I believe. And something fun for the goats, similar to this. And here's an image of the dialogue area. So we're pretty excited about this this cool new feature at the BC. And again, we're getting plans out, and we should have that under construction as soon as we can, beginning late next winter, early spring. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this project as well.
Megan, there was a question in the chat about the age group for the bear ground.
Oh, yes. So the bear will be, the bear itself will be designed for 5 to 12-year-olds. However, the features around the bear, such as the logs and the stumps, will be geared towards the 2 to 5-year-old set. And there's height restrictions. What I didn't mention, what I said at first, that we're about 8 feet below grade if you're standing up on Maple Avenue. So the bear itself is going to be about 15 feet high. So anything that has that height, and as you climb up those heights, through a platform or through steps or climbing, would be limited, ability-wise, to those that are younger than 5.
There was also a question that came through about, it says for paying visitors. It's part of the experience of being at the BC, but also as you know, we host a number of community events and things like that, where people would also have an opportunity to enjoy those kinds of things. So, the Conservancy and the Botanical Center have worked on a pretty rich program of events and things like that. And many of those are free and open to the public.
Thanks, Wendy. Maria has her hand raised. Maria?
Yeah. Hi. Regular user of the park for the last 3.5 years, like pretty much daily. And also former Pawtucket Children's Museum worker, assistant to Karen Lamb. And I'm just, I'm back on the bears. I also grew up in Oregon, and I know about big bears and the like. 2-year-olds are going to be terrified of the 15-foot bear, for one. And I don't know, I just, I hope you will think carefully about the amount spent on that lovely drawing, but who's really using it, and how will it really be used? if you have restrictions on height, who's monitoring, 15 feet? Okay, that's my comment and question. I mean, I know kids, not, I work with 18-year-olds now, but I think kids are gonna want to climb it. And I see the Dino, the little Dino ride, which has returned, and, little kids want to climb on it and you have to hold on to them. And so safety concern.
Well, I think that then you're very familiar with our approach, which is that, kids don't want to get hurt any more than we want them to get hurt. They have built-in safety mechanisms. They know not to go on something that they can't generally get down from. And when we design for these in playgrounds, that has been our experience. We've worked very closely with Janice O'Donnell and a number of folks on what we do in our parks, including how we design parks. We host programs like Playcore, where we invite kids to come and build things and use their imaginations and do those things. So, we design with those things in mind. Megan is a certified playground safety inspector. We're very well aware of what the regulations are. And, there's some point where there's some responsibility on the parents or somebody who brings a 2-year-old to keep an eye on them if they know that. We have signage that says it's not safe to go down a slide with a 2-year-old. Be careful, don't wear hoodies and things like that. Those are hazards. That's very different than taking healthy risks. So it's generally speaking, we've brought in, in playgrounds where we've done some pretty bold things. We've brought in psychologists to talk to parents about their concerns and their fears. And so I think it's, one of the things that we've done is we've made playgrounds too safe for people, and particularly for children, and they don't get to experience their own sense of risk. So, a 2-year-old is not going to go to this park on their own. They're going to have a grown-up with them who can read signs and who can navigate. And they may want to go on that and do that, but that is the parent or the caregiver's role to monitor that. But we're not going to stop designing things for other kids to experience the full breadth of childhood. And connecting to nature and natural materials, and something that they might not see in any other park in the city that says, this is really special. I want to go to the Bear Park today. And so that's really our philosophy. And, we have a lot of parents who, when we tell them we're putting rocks and boulders in parks, well, that's going to be the end of their children. And again, kids figure out how to navigate through those things if we allow them to. So I hope that helps.
Thanks, Wendy. Any other questions, comments, or suggestions about either the Bearground or the hillside restoration at the Rosemary at the Botanical Center?
And I think we have just a couple more projects that we want to focus in a little closely, and then we're just going to give you a list of some, like we called it the fireworks. These are other things that are also happening. So a couple more deeper dives, and I think Brian, you're up on that. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, thank you. Boy, every time I go to one of these meetings, I realize how lucky I am to work with Megan Gardner and Wendy Nilsson, two of the most creative people I think I've ever met. So I'm a very lucky person. So yeah, we call this the lightning round because there's a lot of projects and not a lot of time for this meeting. So we're going to go through some of those. 2 art projects will take place this spring. They are called the Monkey Island and the Sheep and Dog Art Installation. We hired the Steel Yard to come and do those projects. So historically, the monkeys, or in the past, the monkeys were on an island just north of the boathouse, and hence the name Monkey Island. So we will do some steel sculptures that will look like monkeys, and some lighting and some really creative stuff that the Steel Yard has come up with to recreate Monkey Island. The Sheep and Dog Art installation will take place just north of Beachmont, which is on the Edgewood side in the grass area across from Norwood Avenue, roughly. There'll be sculptures that'll be in the grass area that will look like sheep and dogs. So we're very excited with that project. I'm looking forward to that getting underway.
Brian, if I could say that that pays homage to when the sheep used to be the landscapers. Now we have humans doing that, but there used to be a flock of 300 sheep that cared for the lawns and the fields here in Roger Williams Park. So it's an installation that will pay homage to that. And the Monkey Island also gets people to explore things on the water, to take their boats out and to see those lights. And it's something that you'll be able to view from the roadways and the walking paths as well at night, that will be lit up and very, very cool and very non-invasive to the environment. The sheep are just silhouettes, we're not looking at this point for a permanent installation, but hopefully they'll be around for at least 5 years. And what that does is then it carries us, if I left you on that journey over by the boardwalk, it gives folks a reason to continue walking along the paths and to see other things and notice other things, just as Cleveland had done and, many, many years ago. So sorry, I didn't interrupt there, Brian.
Oh, thank you. Please offer anything you can. So another project, the Broad Street Gateway, which a lot of you may have heard about. It's just north of the Broad Street entrance to Roger Williams Park. We are building an information center there and a welcoming center. That project is well underway. The contractor is moving along. Foundations are in the ground and making a lot of progress. We just finished with our own staff installation of fiber optic around the park. So now all of our buildings will be on our city Wi-Fi and have fiber optics, but probably a project that would have cost about $200,000 to have a company came in and do it. And our Parks Department staff working with communications and IT did it for probably less than $10,000. So another savings there. The bandstand in the rear of the casino has a concrete drum wall, which is basically the concrete that holds it up from the water. That drum wall has been failing for many, many years. We are looking to ironclad that with different types of steel that we will, we are actually having historical preservation review right now to see if they feel it's appropriate. We do. So that'll bring a permanent resolution to that ongoing deterioration of that concrete footing. Buildings have been evaluated. We asked Brewster Thornton Group, architects here in Providence, to look at the casino, the boathouse, and the temple and tell us what our liabilities are. They've identified those things, and we're moving forward with remediating some of those liabilities. At the boathouse, we finished a upgrade to the heating and air conditioning. We're going to be making roof repairs, waterproofing repairs, the doors. For any of you who have been to a meeting at the boathouse, you need a lot of strength to open the front door. We're going to rectify that, bring it into compliance so that we can continue to hold our public meetings here. And this spring, you'll see the Boathouse Cafe, which will be a cafe style restaurant on the dock behind the boathouse, which is bar, which is probably one of the most beautiful spots in the park. And we're thrilled to open it up to the public. At the casino, we're just finishing up a very large and expensive heating and air conditioning project, which will now make that a much better venue for events. That's always been a struggle for us, but now it'll be 70 degrees around the clock. Porch, we're going to make some repairs to the porch, which is in need of structural repairs. We're going to repair the flooring. We're going to make upgrades to the bathrooms and make improvements to those doors as well. So those of you who have struggled with the front door at the casino, you will no longer have to do that. Over at the Botanical Center, in addition to what Megan's doing outside, we're making repairs to some of the flooring areas that were damaged. We added security cameras, security systems and lighting. We've upgraded the heating there as well. We're going to add cooling in the spring into some of the venues there to increase our events capabilities there. At the bottom of the hill where that path is going in is a concrete slab that was installed many years ago to house tents for events and other things. We're going to be installing an education and event center building, which will allow many different types of events to take place down in that area. And we've also made fire code and safety upgrades to that building as well. Across the park, in the spring, you'll be seeing landscaping improvements, more plantings throughout at some of the signs and monuments. And our crews have embarked on a leaf mowing initiative. So we are trying to pick up the least amount of leaves we can, instead mowing them in place, which is better for the turf, it's better for the environment, and it's better for us. So those initiatives and our turf maintenance are starting and now underway with our staff here at Roger Williams Park. Lovers Retreat, which is the covered bridge just north of the casino, just adjacent to the casino. We'll be making carpentry and lighting repairs to that facility, which is seen a little wear and tear over the years. The Mounted Command, where the Providence Police houses their horses, is getting a full and complete makeover. So we are about to go out to bid with that. We're going to have new fencing. We're going to get rid of that horrendous chain link fencing, put in a much more decorative fencing, lot more paddocks, which is better for the horses, meadows, repairs to the buildings, permeable pavers, stone dust paths. We're going to make the facility generally much more friendly for visitors. So much needed repairs, been needed for many, many years, finally getting on with that. So we're thrilled to see that happen.
And you'll be able to go right in as a visitor to view the horses as opposed to kind of standing on the edge of the road, looking over the fence. So it will be much more welcoming for the community as well. And if anybody's attended any of the events over at Mounted Command, they do a really good job of reaching out to folks too.
That facility's been transformed with Steve Corville, Sergeant Corville. His leadership over there has really changed that facility. So we're thinking that this will take it to where it needs to go. At the Museum of Natural History, we've finished up design work for new heating and air conditioning there, as well as humidity control, which has been lacking. There's some very valuable artifacts there. And so we want to make sure they maintain the status that they have now. But heating and air conditioning and promoting that as an event center. Again, doors are the problem there as well. We're going to change those out and make sure they're compliant. We're going to do additions to the foyer, the bathrooms. We're going to do interior lighting and exterior decorative lighting, which you should be able to see from Route 95, which will bring some attention to that very, very beautiful building. And then plaster and painting on the inside to bring about some of those repairs that have been long overdue. The fountains throughout the park, we're going to do upgrades to those. Roosevelt Path, which is the path that leads you from the Japanese garden to the back side of the temple, or the front side of the temple. We're going to have a lighting installation there. So that will be a more usable place in the late afternoon and early evening. So light poles installation there. The Temple to Music, the ceiling that we did some work on is continued to deteriorate, but we have finally gotten approval from the Historical Preservation to encapsulate that ceiling with fiberglass. So that will be taking place very shortly and will be a permanent resolution to a problem that has been on probably since the building was installed. So it was a design flaw from the very beginning. And we think we will have a final solution for a long-term solution for that problem. And lastly, the stormwater improvements that we've been undertaking for the last 3 or 4 years here in Roger Williams Park will continue. We're working with DEM, Rhode Island DOT, the city of Cranston, and our own DPW department, as well as the Providence Stormwater Innovation Center, to continue our water quality, which we believe clean water in Roger Williams Park will be here in the very near future. So that's the end of the lightning round. We'll take any questions if you have them.
And I just want to add that, when we're talking we, that's the collective we, it's the Parks Department, it's the partnership in some situation, the Conservancy in some situations, it's also the Visitor Center, that is with the Providence Redevelopment Authority and the Planning Department. And, again, the power of partnerships, what we're able to achieve. So. Thank you, Brian. That was great. We get the benefit of working with and learning from Brian Burns every day. So glad you all came too.
Brian, it's a question about the bridges, and then Mike.
Yeah, we
bridge repair.
Rhode Island DOT, who inspects our bridges here in Roger Williams Park, were here the day before yesterday. So they're continued to monitoring. We do have money for this in the TIF program, which is the statewide bridge repair program in 2023, I believe, Wendy, is it 23, 24? So as you can imagine, repairing those bridges is quite expensive. And we had some damage done to the bridge just north of the boathouse here by someone who drove their car into it. We're struggling to find the funds to repair that, but we hope to do that soon.
The bottom line is the insurance settlement only covers a fraction of that. So, but it's like we're hoping to hold out enough that the either the new infrastructure funding will be applied to that through RIDOT, or if the TIF will come to fruition on that. So it is a little bit of an eyesore, but it's kind of the only thing that is right now in the park. And you know, it was a 26-year-old who fell asleep at the wheel on the and hit that on a very sunny afternoon almost a year ago. So yeah.
Thanks, guys. Mike, you had a question?
Yes, and it's Eric.
Oh, thank you, Eric.
Wendy, this is kind of for you and Brian. Has there, all these ideas are great and everything that you guys are doing, but has there been any talk about putting in maybe a restroom facility on that other end of the park?
Oh, I'm so sorry. So this is, yes, that's what the visitor center is we'll host a bathroom. That's really important. But also with the cafe opening up, that opens up the bathrooms here behind the boathouse as well. So those are one of the things with bathrooms is that you want to make sure they're staffed, particularly in an urban park. And so those are places where we feel confident that we can do that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Charlie has a question about plans for the Broad Street entrance with the visitor center coming in.
Yeah, I think so. The building will become a part of Roger Williams Park. So lots of programming. I'm not sure exactly what your question is, but there will be improvements to the front of the Broad Street entrance as well, which will be in addition to the work that's being done at the gateway.
Has everyone seen the pictures to the gateway?
No, and I would be interested to see what that is going to be and what the plans for that are. And then my question is about Broad Street entrances. It just seems to be sort of like a forgotten part in all the improvements going on, and maybe it's not, I don't know. So that's what I was asking about, so
no,
what the plans are.
Yeah, it's absolutely not. So this is the ultimate vision for the visitor center that's under construction right now at the Broad Street entrance. So we have had it added irrigation and plantings to the Broad Street entrance, and this complements it, is right adjacent to it as the new gateway for the park. It's the idea is that the neighborhood will see the park in a new light, and the visitors to the park will also see the Broad Street neighborhood and create better connections. So the basic concept behind this is there's this visitor center with bathrooms where you can go and you can, you know, buy some merch, you can plan your day or plan a trip or do whatever you need to do or learn about the history of the park and the neighborhood. But then there's also this space, this community gathering space that is, you know, I can show you a few more pictures here. We did a few dedicated meetings on this, so we didn't have this on our, but we'll kind of, I'm going backwards now.
Yeah, sorry, this is the first meeting I've been able to get to.
Yeah,
And
no, that's great. If folks, I'm happy to, I'm just going to start from the beginning that just to do a super lightning round here. And Brian, this has really been a project you've been shepherding with the PRA and planning. So again, this is the rendering, what it will look like. All these panels on the top are taken from the businesses on Broad Street, on the colors of those to be integrated into it. This is a site that was formerly known as El Fagon. It was 5 different lots that the city took by eminent domain that had been burned out buildings and just a dumping ground. And so this is the vision for this space that is under construction now. You can see that there's hardscaping this is Broad Street. This is the new visitor center building, bathrooms and event space. It's relatively small. Brian, remind me of the square footage.
It's around 3,800, I believe.
So relatively small, but really does the trick. And the emphasis is really on the outdoor space here. Transitioning to some softer scape, some children's play areas, again, natural play, some stormwater features, lots of landscaping and trees, interpretive signage, and things like that, which you can see in some more sites. You know, the idea here being the front of it is more of the urban, and then kind of getting a little more deep into the wild. These are some of the concept boards for it, of encouraging gathering, playing, and discovering. This is, you know, some sort of views of, you know, potentially people hanging out, enjoying food trucks, doing things like that. Gathering, again, the berms and seating, places to gather. Things to play on, again, natural playscape, not the bells and whistles, but ways for kids to connect to nature. There's an awful lot of hardscaping on Broad Street. We didn't want to add to that. You know, more renderings of the space. Again, there's vehicle access to bring in churro trucks and what have you. These are some of the materials being used. These are some of the interior finishes. It's really a state-of-the-art facility. This gives an interior view that's fairly accurate. There's a front help desk. This will have room for brochures and other things like that. There's going to be this really cool, I believe the final one we settled on was felt, repurposed felt curtain or separator here that will allow some office space for the Conservancy and Parks staff that are going to be working here, as well as gallery space. These doors back here open up into this courtyard and allow that programming to be extended. And again, we worked on this during COVID, and the focus really was on how do we get people outside and doing that programming rather than, you know, creating more indoor spaces for them, particularly in Roger Williams Park. Sustainability, it's a zero energy building. There's photovoltaic panels on the building itself, as well as the garage in the back that will be used for storage and, you know, also potentially some more office space. Stormwater treatment, again, demonstrating the best of what we do. Roger Williams Park is home to a project that was started by our very own Brian Burns of Providence Stormwater Innovation Center, where we hold trainings and education for folks on stormwater management and maintenance and functionality and how they help our world. So integrating those features, the sort of softscaping, and there you have it. So that was a whirlwind tour, and this should be opening up in anywhere from late June to September of this coming up, this 2022.
Thank you for showing that. It's really lovely. And I see that you really have thought through it, which I expected, but it's nice to see. Just where is parking for it?
So, you know, we debated a lot about parking because we could take up more space there and, you know, allow 7 cars to park there, or we could really make that fabulous green space and community gathering. So, you know, the idea there will be bike share there, so people can bike there. But the expectation is that people would pull up alongside the curb, you know, hop off, use the bathroom, maybe get their tickets to the zoo or Botanical Center or both. You know, proceed to their destination. Folks in the neighborhoods can easily walk there. But there's also, you know, parking along Miller and Hawthorne. And of course, we would always encourage people to take public transportation.
And Charlie, if I can add to Wendy, the Broad Street is slated to get some improvements for pedestrian access. So in the event you're headed northbound and need to park on the other side of the street, some of the improvements will make it a lot easier and safer for you to cross the street.
Yeah, good point. So it is, you know, one of the most frequently requested things from when we've been doing these meetings now for, Brian and I have been here for 6.5 years, has been the better connection to the neighborhoods. And so this has been really, really important to us. So when this opportunity came up, we really seized on that. There's no reason why people should have to see burned out buildings before, entering into one of the most lush green spaces in the city. And it's not a representation of the community, which is so incredibly creative and resourceful and diverse. So it really, the theme of the night is paying homage. And so we think that is a much better lens with which to view Roger Williams Park, and for folks who are visiting Roger Williams Park to visit the community. Likewise, our at Elmwood Ave, our goal really was to make that playground over there sort of a showcase for the community in the area, and also, just right outside of Roger Williams Park as well. And we had the ribbon cutting about a few weeks ago, and one of the neighbors said that, we'd never gathered like this before. Neighbors are meeting neighbors because now we can come to this space. So, and we have more work planned over there with the ball field and what have you, but that was a real priority. Eventually we would like to, make an easier connection. We have some really wild, wonderful vision about, creating walkways over the highway, under train tracks and things like that to make that access easier. But it's been a challenge with a major highway, dividing neighborhoods.
Thank you, Wendy. Does anybody have any other question about any of the projects that Brian did the lightning round over? Or does anybody have any other questions about any other places in the park in terms of repair, maintenance, restoration, anything like that?
Again, we are incredibly grateful to the partnership with the Conservancy and to all of you who care for this park each and every day, who visit it, who make it busy, make it wonderful, who call things in. We know it's not always easy living next to or being part of a park, but we really appreciate all the alerts that we get so that we can attend to things right away and can loop the appropriate people in when needed. So it's a great joy to be able to work here in the park, but also to do the service for the city of Providence.
Wendy, Brian, Megan, you guys are terrific partners and public servants and A+ park leaders. So thank you guys for all you do. Thanks. Thanks to everybody who joined the call. Just a note about future community meetings. We're hoping to do these. I think we'll continue to do them on Zoom. Many of you might have attended our open house that we debuted this year. We'd probably like to do one of those again next year. Stay tuned. Hoping to do these quarterly, and we'll get. If we do this right, we'll get a calendar of all the events out to you well in advance, so you can see what's coming down the pike all year long. And we'll have some other guest speakers and some other topics for folks like you to talk about, as well as your neighbors. We want to hear from your neighbors too. Wendy, any last thoughts?
No, thank you all for joining us tonight. I know you have so many other things to do, but we're grateful that you're part of this process and thought partners in this as well. Thank you.
Thanks again, folks. And we will see you all on Zoom and in the park again very soon. Take care. Good night.
Thank you.